5 years ago, my fiancée, Chloe, died in the line of duty. Her body was never recovered. But this year, on August 20th at 8:17 p.m., Captain Miller called me himself. He said they'd found her. She wasn't dead. She was alive and well, and she was getting married. On the way to that coastal town, Captain Miller and the other officers kept trying to manage my expectations, but I wouldn't give up hope. She was the woman I'd pursued for 2 years, cherished for 5, and proposed to twice. How could she forget me? I caressed the simple band on my finger. She had already said yes to me. How could she marry someone else? A flight and then a bus. The 5-hour bus ride was a nauseating hell. After 10 hours of travel, the 4 of us finally reached the small town of Seacliff. There it is. Captain Miller pointed to a bed and breakfast called the Sunny Skies Inn. The once obscure inn had gone viral after a tourist posted a set of photos online. The innkeeper, who made an unexpected appearance in the shots, gained a massive following. Even with just a side profile, she was beautiful enough to make people swoon. Captain Miller glanced at me. She doesn't remember anything. You have to be. I stared intently at the door, my senses shutting down. When Captain Miller pushed the door open, a wind chime made of seashells chimed with a crisp, clear sound. Before me was a large courtyard. A cobblestone path led to the main house. In the yard, there was an oversized swing, a golden retriever, and several cats. I stared at the animals, surprised. Suddenly, a woman emerged from behind a curtain of strung seashells. Dressed in a simple white linen dress, she was breathtakingly beautiful. The moment I saw her, my body froze. My back tingled, a buzzing filled my head, and it felt as if all my bodily functions ceased in an instant. All I could do was stare, with every ounce of my being, at the woman before me. I'd seen people who looked almost exactly like Chloe. Some even had the same beauty mark beneath the corner of their eye, but I always knew with a single glance they weren't her. This person was so different from my Chloe. Her face had lost the youthful softness of her 18-year-old self, replaced by a quiet resolve. Her dark eyes were clear and captivating, like the purest, most resilient flower of spring. And there was a new layer of detachment. I couldn't stop myself from moving closer and closer until I saw the beauty mark by her eye, the red cord around her neck. "Hey, Chloe," I whispered, fighting back a sob, afraid of startling her. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with the stark gaze of a complete stranger. "Excuse me, Chloe?" I could barely form her name. The woman looked at me coolly. "I'm sorry, sir. You have the wrong person." But I could be wrong about anything in this world, except for Chloe, because she was half of my soul. Captain Miller quickly pulled me aside. "Excuse me, do you have any rooms available?" Chloe crossed her arms, sizing us up. "Yes. How many?" "2. Come on in." She turned and walked straight into the house without a backward glance. I had been so naive, thinking that if she just saw me, she would remember. That if she just saw me, everything would be different. But the look she gave me was sharp and unfamiliar, tinged with annoyance at my forwardness. I didn't cry when I heard she was alive. I didn't cry when I heard she was getting married. But thinking of the look in her eyes just now, my heart felt like it was being crushed in a fist, the pain so intense it was about to shatter. "IDs." Captain Miller handed over our IDs. As she took the IDs, I saw it clearly. The top joint of her left pinky was missing. When she walked to the counter, she had a slight limp in her right leg. I clapped a hand over my mouth. Captain Miller grabbed the key cards and had one of the officers hurry me out of the room. I sat in my room for a long time before I could find my voice. How did this happen to her? On the way here, I'd sworn that when I saw her, I would demand an answer. I had waited for her for so many agonizing years. How could she forget me and marry another man? But the moment I saw her, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just wanted to hold her. I stayed in my room for so long that Leo, one of the officers, got worried and dragged me out. Everyone was in the backyard having a barbecue. I saw Chloe immediately, tending to the grill. Captain Miller was standing beside her, and they seemed to be chatting easily. "Ethan, you feeling better?" I nodded. "Chloe, let me introduce you. This is Ethan." I slowly extended my hand, trying to keep it from trembling. "Ethan, nice to meet you." Her familiar, small hand gave mine a brief shake. "Chloe, you too." The greeting of strangers. In that instant, a sharp sting hit my nose. I remembered right after I proposed, how she'd held me, impossibly gentle, whispering, my husband, my husband." We had truly lost it all. Looking at her, I had a million questions, but in the end, All I could ask was, "It's beautiful here. Are you happy?" She expertly flipped something on the grill and answered casually, "It's good. That's good." As she spoke, a piece of chicken fell off the grill. She looked toward the house. "Potato, come here." Potato was the name of the orange tabby we had adopted together. She'd named him. "He's so round and lumpy," she'd said. "Let's just call him Potato." Watching the big golden retriever trot over, tail wagging, my throat tightened. "You named him Potato?" "Yep, he's a big, round spud. What else would I call him?" I turned away, my heart aching. Only she could come up with such a goofy name. Once the food was ready, we all gathered around a table to eat. I grabbed a beer and started chugging it, the bitter taste flooding my mouth. I looked at her across the table. The beauty mark I always teased her about was still there, as was the red cord around her neck. I just didn't know if it was the one I gave her. Nothing felt real. Leo started passing out skewers and put some mushrooms on her plate. I snatched them away before she could. "No, she can't eat mushrooms." Everyone at the table suddenly stared at me. Just as I was fumbling for an explanation, a man ran up and threw his arms around Chloe, nuzzling his face into her neck. "Chloe, I missed you like crazy." The tips of Chloe's ears turned red. "Behave," she scolded, but her voice was filled with nothing but affection. She wriggled out of his arms and introduced him with a smile. "This is my fiancé, Liam." I stood there, still holding the mushrooms, staring blankly at the man whose smile was as bright as the sun. A tremor went through my chest, and I felt as if I'd been struck by a sledgehammer, the pain so sharp I couldn't breathe. "Hey everyone, I'm Liam, Chloe's fiancé. Welcome to Seacliff." Captain Miller and the others greeted him. Liam was a talker. He had a compliment for everyone, including me. "Ethan, man, not only are you handsome, but look at that hair. I'm not so lucky. I'm about to go bald." Then he seemed to remember something and turned to Chloe. "Hey Chloe, take it easy on my hair, or I'll be a bald groom at the wedding next week." Chloe ruffled his hair and chuckled. "All right." I saw the look in his eyes, so clear and untainted, full of excitement for the wedding. He looked just like I once did. "Wedding?" Leo asked. "That's right. It's next Wednesday. We'd love for you all to be there." I opened another beer. Liam grabbed one too, but Chloe immediately took it from him. "You're not drinking that," Liam pleaded. "Just one sip." Then right in front of us he stole a quick kiss. "Come on, my sweet Chloe, just one sip. Drink this instead." She handed him a white thermos. Inside were rosebuds floating in hot water. As she opened it, the floral scent filled the air. Liam frowned. "Rose tea? Chloe, I've told you a million times I don't like floral tea. Why do you always forget?" "I don't know. I just make it out of habit." Hearing her words, I turned away and finished my beer. I never liked drinking water. In high school, I strained my voice from studying aloud so much that sometimes I could barely speak. To get me to drink more, Chloe would make me all kinds of things: floral teas, fruit teas, oolong, always something different. In the winter, she'd even make me mulled apple cider and pear nectar. Every time I managed to drink an extra glass, my proud Chloe would treat my blue thermos like a holy relic. Seeing me with my beer, Liam tried to bargain again. "Look, Ethan's drinking one. Maybe that's the secret to his great hair." "You're ridiculous." I looked at the can in my hand and gave a bitter smile. My fiancée didn't let me drink either. I'm a lightweight, so she kept a close eye on me. Liam looked at me. "So, does she get mad when you drink like this now?" I glanced over at Chloe, then shook my head. She stopped looking after me a long time ago. Realizing he'd said the wrong thing, Liam gave me an apologetic look. He stopped protesting and obediently drank the entire cup of tea Chloe had given him. I only ate that one skewer of mushrooms, but I drank a lot. My head was spinning, so I decided to head back early. As I walked away, I heard Liam's booming laugh. I glanced back and saw him clinging to Chloe like a sloth, talking a mile a minute. She stumbled under his weight but just kept patiently clearing the table, as if she were completely used to it. Chloe never had an easy temper. I thought she only saved her patience for me. I thought I was the only one she would ever love. Looking at Liam, whose face was practically overflowing with happiness, I clutched my chest as a sharp pain shot through it. I felt like I was dying. That should be me. I should be the one spoiling her rotten. I fought the urge to tear them apart and forced myself back to my room. I opened my bag and dumped everything onto the floor until I found my pills. Only after I swallowed them did the tidal wave of my emotions begin to recede. By the time Leo came in, I was calm again. I thought you were going to cause a scene out there. I looked out the window. I was planning on it, but then I couldn't bring myself to do it. I saw all the stuff you packed. Were you hoping to help her get her memory back? That suitcase held 10 years of our life together. The first note she ever wrote me, her first love letter, every birthday gift she'd given me from 18 to 28, our first photo, and our first wedding picture. I shook my head. That was never the plan. Leo looked at me, stunned. But why? Thinking of the horrific way her parents died, I closed my eyes and steadied myself. I don't want her to go through the pain of losing her family twice. I slept late the next day. By the time I got my things together and headed out with my sketchpad, it was already past lunch. Leo waved me over. Ethan, we saved you some food. A few people were chatting around a wooden table in the courtyard. When Liam saw me, he went back inside and came out holding an orange envelope, which he presented to me like a prized possession. Ethan, we don't have much family, so we'd be honored if you'd come to our wedding. It was a formal invitation. I took the envelope but couldn't bring myself to open it. Liam urged me on. Ethan, you're an artist. Tell us what you think of the design. The thin piece of paper felt like it weighed a ton. Here, let me see, Leo interjected quickly. This color is beautiful. I think so too. Chloe picked the orange. I wanted blue, but orange looks much better. Ethan, what's your favorite color? I set down my sketchpad and pointed to my orange shirt. I never had a favorite color before high school. Then one day I wore an orange jacket, and Chloe told me I looked good in it. Orange has been my favorite color ever since. Wow, Ethan, you and my Chloe have the same taste. My Chloe. Those two words sounded so jarring to me. Once, Chloe's favorite thing to say in front of others was, my Ethan. Leo, seeing my expression, quickly took the invitation from my hand. The drawing inside looks just like you, very handsome. But is this set at sunset? Is the wedding in the evening? Liam rubbed his face. That was Chloe's idea. Because someone isn't a morning person. Liam stared at me, baffled. Ethan, how did you know? Chloe really does love to sleep in. But more importantly, she's always loved the evening. I once told her that evening was my favorite time of day, because that's when my sleeping beauty finally woke up and became my girlfriend again. Chloe was a natural-born heavy sleeper. Waking up at 5:30 for school was absolute torture for her. Who would have thought that my little sleepyhead would end up in such a demanding profession? For 3 years, every morning, she'd sit on the back of my bike, hugging me with her eyes closed, trying to get a little more sleep. She could have 3 different dreams in the 10 minutes between classes. And every time she woke up, my school jacket would be draped over her shoulders. Once, watching her sleep so soundly, I sighed in her ear. What am I going to do with you? You sleep so much. How will you ever wake up for our wedding? Then, on her 24th birthday, she woke up, poked by my morning stubble. She pushed me away and tried to go back to sleep. I pulled her into my arms, patting her back gently, and said in a raspy morning voice, Chloe, let's have our wedding in the evening. She mumbled in agreement. I kissed her forehead and sighed contentedly. We have to let my little sleepyhead get her beauty rest. Otherwise, she might get grumpy and refuse to marry me. Then what would I do? And now, it wasn't that I wouldn't marry her, it was that she was marrying someone else. There really was no one to complain to. I stood up and grabbed my sketchpad. In that moment, Liam's eyes fell on the ring on my finger. Seeing his look, I gave the ring a little shake. Because she said the same thing. You're married, Ethan? Yes, for 5 years. Liam was surprised. So where's your wife? Didn't she come with you? I watched Chloe walking toward us in the distance and gave a slight shake of my head. As I walked out of the inn, Liam's laughter followed me. He was telling Leo the entire story of his proposal to Chloe. I walked faster, as if fleeing from a ghost. I found a quiet spot and set up my easel. Just as I picked up my palette, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I took the pill case from my pocket and swallowed a dose. The feeling slowly subsided. Chloe always said she was an unlucky person. She never had a stroke of good fortune, never even won a free drink from a bottle cap. She thought Lady Luck must hate her. But my Chloe was the best girl in the world, and she deserved all the luck. So on that day, she won the stuffed animal she'd been trying to get from the claw machine for ages. Her bubble tea was free. She even won the $5,000 grand prize in the supermarket's promotional game. Even the soda she bought for her friend Amy had a win another cap. Chloe couldn't believe it. How could she, who had been a stranger to luck her whole life, suddenly have such a perfect day? Just then, as the car they were in made a turn, it suddenly lurched forward uncontrollably. Seeing the wall rushing toward them, Chloe screamed. Crash! The car smashed through the wall. But surprisingly, there was almost no impact. Chloe, who had covered her eyes, slowly peeked through her fingers. She saw a soft orange glow. The light, and the scent of flowers, spread out to illuminate the person standing in the center. I was standing in a sea of flowers, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. All our friends and family were there, dressed to the nines, ready to welcome my girl. Even Potato was there, sitting beside me in a handsome little tuxedo. Chloe stared in disbelief at the scene before her. I walked over, opened her car door, and the first thing I said was our old inside joke. Hey Chloe, it's time. It was our code for everything. Time for dinner, time to go home, time for a kiss. And now, time for you to be my wife. I lifted her out of the car to a roar of applause. I, who was usually so calm and composed, was suddenly so nervous I could barely speak. Chloe, did you have a good day? Chloe was so choked up with emotion she couldn't speak. She just nodded again and again. I grinned, feeling a little wicked. Chloe, there's something very, very important I need you to do. And only you can do it. She looked at me, her face a picture of innocence. What is it? Be my wife. Marry me, and I'll make every day this lucky for you. Plus, I'm a package deal. You get me, and maybe one or two more down the line. It was strange, so many things with Chloe and me just happened naturally. There was no need for grand plans or what-ifs. I just knew I would marry her, and she knew she was the only one for me. After the proposal, I bought a lottery ticket on the way home. I told her, if this wins, the 30 million is all yours. And if it doesn't? She asked. I answered without missing a beat. Then it just proves that marrying you used up all my luck. She burst out laughing, then said with mock seriousness, I always thought I was unlucky. Turns out I was just saving it all up to meet you. Of course you were. You saved up 18 years of luck just to find me. You'd better take good care of me. I leaned over and kissed her, then said with all the sincerity in the world, I will. As the sun began to set, I stared greedily at the fiery red sky. Her words still echoed in my ears, but she was gone. When I returned with my sketchpad, the lights of the inn were already on. As I approached, I saw a figure standing by the door. The glowing red ember of a cigarette danced in the dark, and the faint smell of alcohol drifted toward me. I frowned at the person. When she heard me and turned her head, I saw a flash of panic in her eyes. She quickly hid a glass behind her back and gave a little, unnatural cough, looking exactly like Chloe used to whenever I caught her sneaking a drink. I stood my ground, using every ounce of self-control to ignore her. But just as I was about to walk past, I heard her speak. Ethan, I remember you. It was like a bomb went off. All the blood in my body rushed to my head. Was my Chloe back? I turned around stiffly. My shoulders and legs were trembling, my heart pounding. Her name was on the tip of my tongue, but it died there when I met her placid gaze. My Chloe would never look at me like that. Her eyes were always smiling, always wrapping me in their warmth. The sudden whiplash of hope and despair made my heart ache. I lowered my head so she wouldn't see my eyes were red. Captain Miller told me some things, but he didn't mention you. She analyzed it slowly. I feel like I know you, but not like a colleague. Every time I see you, I feel this sense of guilt, maybe even a little fear. You knew I was allergic to mushrooms, and the red cord on your neck is just like mine. We'd gotten the cords together at Starlight Point. I'd wished for her to be safe, and she'd wished for all my dreams to come true. Each cord had a small silver charm with our initials. I'd forgotten. Chloe was trained in reconnaissance. Even without her memories, her instincts were still sharp. The overly friendly attitude from Captain Miller and his team wouldn't have escaped her notice. It was only a matter of time before she figured things out. As for who I was, had she not guessed or had she guessed and refused to believe it? I slowly raised my head to meet her searching gaze, but her eyes dropped to my ring. Liam said you were married. Her hands were in her pockets, but I knew they were clenched into fists. Her mind must have been reeling. Of course, a woman on the verge of marrying a good man, swept up in happiness, and suddenly a man from a past she can't remember appears. She must have been completely thrown. My throat was tight, and it took me several tries before I could speak. I am married, but it has nothing to do with you. I could visibly see her breathe a sigh of relief. That was the most painful moment of my life. I never imagined a day would come when Chloe would be relieved to have no connection to me. I still remember in high school, the way the tips of her ears would turn red when I caught her staring at me, and the look on her face when I agreed to be her boyfriend. She looked like she'd just been handed the entire world. I'd only seen that purely triumphant smile on her face twice. "Then what about your wife?" I looked at her, and my eyes instantly welled up. She looked at me, flustered, and started to apologize. "I'm sorry, A sharp pain suddenly shot through my stomach. I bent over, raising a hand to stop her. "Your parents took pity on me. They raised me like a son. We weren't that close. I just came here to see how you were for their sake." As for the cord, I yanked it and the cord snapped. "Your parents got it for your safety. They just picked one up for me while they were at it." Chloe stared at me, silent. I didn't have the energy to lie anymore. Those few sentences should be enough to let her get married in peace. I don't know how I made it back to my room. I thought I was holding it together, but the moment I turned my back on her, I felt like my life was over. Tears blurred my vision. Staring at my own exhausted, gaunt face in the mirror, I stood in the bathroom, silently breaking down. 5 years. For 5 years, I dreamed of her coming back to me. And the moment she did, I had to push her away. Why was this happening to me? Why me? The emotional turmoil made my stomach churn, and I tasted blood in the back of my throat. "Ethan, what's wrong? Open the door." I steadied myself against the wall, flushed the toilet, and quickly splashed water on my face before walking out as if nothing had happened. "I'm fine. Just slipped." The pity in Leo's eyes was hard to bear. "You don't have to pretend with me." I turned away. "I'm fine." Leo looked like he wanted to say more, but he just patted my shoulder and went to his side of the room. As he turned, my eyes fell on the table again. The orange invitation, the evening wedding, that should have been mine and Chloe's. A wave of bitterness washed over me, and emotion took over. I stormed out of the room, heading for the main hall. I had to tell her I was her fiancé. The salty sea air stung my face. Laughter drifted down from the second floor. I looked up and saw Chloe blow-drying Liam's hair. The gesture was so familiar, so full of love. Liam was nestled comfortably against her, and I, who once held that place, was now just an outsider looking in. The sound of his laughter froze me in my tracks. If I told her the truth, what would happen? Chloe was the kind of person who always did the responsible thing. What would she do about me? I didn't want her pity. I wanted her love. By the time I got my emotions under control and returned to the room, it was past midnight, but Leo was still up. "Chloe figured it out on her own," he said. "She might have amnesia, but she hasn't forgotten her training." "I know." Chloe was always sharp. Of course, she would notice Captain Miller's not-so-subtle attempts to get close. Her parents? Did Miller tell her about them? The room was silent for a moment. "He told her it was a car accident." I nodded. I didn't say anything else. At least that was a reason she could live with. "Chloe said she wants to come back to Linwood with us after the wedding." After a long pause, I spoke. "She's getting married. She should take her husband to see her parents' graves. It's the right thing to do." "Did she ask about you?" I thought of her waiting for me by the door. "She did. I didn't tell her anything." "Don't worry. Ethan, you know that's not what I meant." I clutched my stomach as a wave of pain hit. "But it's what I mean." From 18 to 28, for 10 whole years, Chloe had been a part of me. She was like a vine, wrapped around all my most important memories. Tearing her away now was like ripping off my own skin, leaving me raw and in agony. On my 3rd day there, my insomnia returned. I lay awake until dawn. Their wedding was in 2 days. Early in the morning, I could hear Liam's voice in the courtyard, making arrangements. "We need a floral arch here, red roses. The red carpet has to be extra long, and the backdrop needs to be huge. And we need a photo wall. Chloe will love that." The noise from the courtyard was incessant. I buried my head under the covers, but Liam's voice still drilled its way into my ears. We had a wedding plan, too. The aisle was going to be lined with the same white jasmine from my proposal. The bouquet was one Chloe made herself, with orange freesias that had a sweet, delicate scent. The chairs were tied with orange ribbons. We'd revised the menu 4 times to get it perfect. We even picked out the wedding favors together, little boxes with a cartoon drawing of the 2 of us on them. I remember holding her hand as we walked down that long, flower-lined aisle. Her hand was warm in mine, and I couldn't stop it from trembling. It was only the rehearsal, but I was a nervous wreck. Everything was going so perfectly, but the call for her mission came that very night. I never got to put the ring on her finger. She never got to see me in the suit I'd had custom-made, with her name stitched inside. She kept apologizing, promising she'd be back in a week. Just 1 week, and then she'd be back to marry me. So I waited, and waited, for 5 years, until I got the news that she was marrying someone else. When I finally went outside, the courtyard was bustling with people setting things up. Liam saw me and ran right over. "Ethan, my man, I need a little favor." I never could have imagined the favor he wanted was for me to help with their wedding. On the large white backdrop, I expertly took out my palette, mixed the colors, and with a few quick strokes, painted the outline of a sunset. "Whoa, that's perfect, Ethan. You're amazing. If we didn't have to put photos up, I'd have you paint the whole thing." I cleaned my brush. "Photos?" Liam turned back with a box. "Photos of me and Chloe over the last 5 years. He started putting the photos up on the board. He was a naturally open person, or maybe he just wanted to share his happiness with the world, because he told me the story behind every single one. This one was right after Chloe got out of the hospital. She was rail thin, but fierce as a cornered cat. I'd rescued her, so she started working for me to pay me back. I was the one who fell for her first, of course. I chased her for 2 years, but she always turned me down for the same reason. Liam scratched his head. She said she'd forgotten something important, something really important, and she couldn't think about anything else until she remembered what it was. I suddenly remembered what I'd said during my proposal. "Chloe, there's something very, very important I need you to do, and only you can do it." "What is it?" "Be my wife." I looked at the photo of her, my voice hoarse. Did she ever find that important thing? Liam shook his head. No, she never remembered. I spent 3 years helping her search, just wandering aimlessly. Then we went through some tough times together, and I guess she took pity on this old guy and finally said yes. After a long silence, I heard myself say, "Guess it wasn't that important after all." Liam immediately disagreed. "No, it was important to her. She hates hospitals, but she went through 3 years of therapy trying to remember, never missed a single appointment." In the photo, Chloe was standing by the ocean, bathed in sunlight. Her smile was so free and bright. For a second, I saw the 18-year-old girl I fell in love with. I reached out and touched the photo. Why bother? If you forget something, it must not have been important. "Ethan, you should be the first one to sign the guest book." The orange pen felt impossibly heavy in my hand. I held it for a long moment, then set it down. "No, it's okay. My handwriting isn't very good." The wedding flowers needed to be ordered, and Chloe was busy with other arrangements, so Liam dragged me along with him. I wanted to say no, but a part of me wanted to hear more about her last 5 years. The flower shop in town was small but overflowing with blooms. "Hey, Mr. Peterson," Liam called out. "I need 1,000 red roses for Wednesday." They were clearly regulars. The owner gave him an okay sign. "Just got some fresh freesias in. Want a few?" Liam shook his head. "Nah, I prefer flowers with a stronger scent and bolder colors. Those are a little too subtle for me." The man was just like a rose himself, passionate and vibrant, the kind of person who could heal anyone, even someone broken. I ended up buying 2 of the orange freesias before we left. Their delicate scent was comforting. At a fruit stand down the street, Liam squatted down to pick out some mangosteens. Chloe's favorite. I should get her a bunch. We had lived up north, where it was all apples and pears. I never knew her favorite fruit was mangosteen. It felt like, besides her face, nothing about her was my Chloe anymore. The roar of a motorcycle echoed from down the street. A bike came swerving down the narrow alleyway, 2 cops chasing behind it. It was coming straight for us, showing no signs of slowing down. Just as Liam started to stand up, the motorcycle was already on top of him. I shoved him out of the way with all my strength. A searing pain shot through my body as I crashed into the fruit stand, then tumbled to the ground amidst a cascade of rolling fruit. The last thing I saw was my freesias being crushed under someone's boot. "Ethan." On my 3rd day in Seacliff, I woke up in the hospital. It was evening. A group of people were gathered around my bed, including Captain Miller and Chloe. I didn't have the energy to speak. Liam did most of the talking, his eyes full of guilt. I woke again in the dark of the early morning. The first thing I did was reach for my head. In the darkness, a hand gently pulled mine away and adjusted something on my head for me. I felt a warm drop on the back of my hand, and the person beside my bedside heavily. "When did you find out?" I looked at the shadowy figure of Leo and sighed. "About 6 months ago." "Why didn't you tell us?" I patted his arm. "It's not a bad thing. For me, this sickness is a release." "I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were sick, and I was so guarded, trying to keep you away from her." Patted his hand. You weren't wrong. My intentions weren't pure. That's Chloe we're talking about. The woman I loved for 10 years, the woman I almost married. I had to try. Another cramp seized my stomach. I held my breath until it passed. If it wasn't for this, I would have fought for her. I would have made a scene. I couldn't have just let it go. Leo's voice was thick with emotion, and it hurt to hear it. Are you sure you won't tell her? There's still time, Ethan. His sudden change of heart caught me off guard. I blinked hard, trying to keep the tears from falling. No matter how much I wanted to, I had to accept it. No. We both know her parents' death wasn't an accident. It was retaliation. If she knew the truth, how much pain would that cause her? And knowing her, she wouldn't let it go. She'd risk her own life for revenge. I can't let her get hurt again. I sniffed. I can't just tell her I'm her fiancé and then ask her to plan my funeral. How could she handle losing 3 family members all at once? She's about to get married. Leo turned his head away, unable to listen anymore. I found myself comforting him. Don't feel bad for me. When I first got the diagnosis, I felt relieved. It felt like all the suffering was finally going to end. It wasn't until I heard Chloe was alive that I fell apart. But now, seeing her with Liam, I'm almost glad I'm sick. Ethan. I turned my head and took a deep breath. Besides, you saw her. She's this new person, this Chloe. She's not my Chloe. My Chloe is still out there, waiting for me. And I'm going to see her very soon, Leo. Leo gently patted my shoulder. I looked up at him. Leo, can you do something for me? That night, Leo was too troubled to sleep. But I, having finally confessed my secret, slept soundly, free of the burden. I woke early on the 4th day. Leo was helping me with my wig. He didn't say anything, but his touch was getting gentler and gentler. When Liam brought breakfast, I noticed he looked off. He was listless and seemed distracted. As soon as Leo left the room, he came over to my bed. Ethan, Chloe was your fiancée, wasn't she? My hand, holding the bowl of oatmeal, trembled. Before I could speak, he rushed on. I didn't mean to go through your things. I was just looking for a change of clothes for you in your suitcase. I put down the bowl and looked at the distraught man before me. I'm the one who stole her, he said. She should have been yours. I'm the one who had her for the last 5 years. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. The man was consumed with guilt. I looked at him. Liam, you have nothing to be sorry to me for. The woman you love is the person she is now. The woman I love is the person she was. You didn't steal anything from me. But they're the same person. I shook my head, my voice firm. No, the woman who loves you is the person she is today. The woman who loved me is gone. I say they're different, so they're different. I didn't risk my life saving you just to watch you call off the wedding. Liam stayed until Leo returned, leaving with an even heavier weight of guilt in his eyes. Leo went to get some sleep that afternoon, planning to bring me dinner later. I never expected Chloe to be the one who showed up with my food. The moment she walked in, I was grateful I was wearing my best wig, but I was also terrified it was crooked. I adjusted it frantically while her back was turned. The insulated container held a simple egg custard, some soft milk rolls, and braised short ribs. She probably didn't know what I could eat, so she'd brought options. To my surprise, there was even a sweet potato and cheese bake, my favorite. I desperately wanted to try her short ribs, to see if she'd finally learned not to use too much soy sauce, but my stomach could only handle a few bites of the custard. I sat on the bed, and she stood by the window. We were silent, but it wasn't awkward. It reminded me of how we used to be. Waking from an afternoon nap, I'd sit on the windowsill and play my guitar, and she'd lie in bed just watching me. We didn't need words. We just understood each other. For once, my stomach cooperated, and I finished all the custard. As I reached for the sweet potato bake, she walked over and handed it to me. Thanks, I said. Don't thank me. You saved Liam's life. I should be thanking you. The sweet potato, which should have been delicious, now tasted only of bitterness. I took a few bites and pushed the food away. I knew she had something she wanted to say, but in the end, all she said was, "Get well soon." I knew I should say something congratulatory, wish them a happy marriage, a long life together, something, but I couldn't get the words out. Thanks. I hope you too. It took all my effort to continue. Have a good life. Forgive me. It was the best blessing I could manage. Chloe nodded, picked up the container, and left. My eyes followed her until the door closed. The moment it did, I pulled out my fork and dragged my injured body to the window. Her figure came into view below. I stared, trying to burn the image of her back into my memory. After all, it would be the last time I ever saw her. The 5th day was the day of Chloe and Liam's wedding. I heard they'd saved me a seat in the front row, but I was already on a train back to Linwood. I'd bought the ticket in advance. I had barely sat down before the pain in my stomach started again. The pain had been coming more and more frequently these last few days. I knew the time for what I'd asked Leo to do was getting close. Chloe had spoiled me. I used to get grumpy over the smallest ache or pain. Her friends always said she had a terrible temper, but with me, she was endlessly patient. Even when I was being completely unreasonable, she would just coax me out of it. It always worked. She'd hold me tight, her voice a low murmur in my ear, and just hearing her say my name would make all the pain disappear. But now, I was in so much pain that a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. My fingers clutched my stomach, knuckles white from the pressure. Before, she would have been heartbroken to see me like this. She would have held me gently, patiently soothing me until the pain went away. But now, the pain was 100 times worse than anything I'd ever felt before, and there was no one to whisper my name. I slumped over the small table, whispering her name. Chloe, why aren't you here to make it better? The train rattled on, and the painkillers finally pulled me into sleep. I dreamed I was back in high school, and I saw her, my 18-year-old Chloe. The Chloe who only had eyes for me. The Chloe who loved only me. If there's a next life, I hope she's the first person I meet all over again. Chloe's story. We arrived in Linwood in the evening. The first thing we did was visit my parents' graves. Looking at the photograph on the headstone, I finally saw where I got my eyes. They were just as I'd imagined them, a gentle, peaceful mother and a stern, serious father. After paying my respects, I asked the others to give me a moment alone. I stayed there for a long time, telling my parents everything that had happened over the last 5 years. By the time I came down from the cemetery, the tears on my face had dried, and the smell of incense clung to my clothes. But as I looked around at the familiar streets, I still felt an emptiness inside, like a piece of me was missing. I felt like I had forgotten something important. Captain Miller dropped us off at my parents' old apartment. It was in an older building, but well-maintained. The moment I opened the door, a cloud of dust billowed out. So much dust, Liam coughed. I walked over to a large family portrait on the living room wall. Something stirred inside me. In the photo, I was in my police uniform, my arms around my parents. The three of us were smiling. It was a perfect family photo. But it felt like something was missing. Liam and I started cleaning the place up. When I saw an old bicycle on the balcony, an image flashed in my mind. Under a bright blue sky, a boy was riding, and on the back sat a girl, fast asleep, looking so soft and vulnerable it made my heart ache. The image was gone in an instant. We found a lot of my childhood photos. Liam was fascinated by them, but I felt nothing. When we were mostly done, Liam asked me to go to the store for some supplies. I had no idea where to go, but when I got downstairs, I automatically turned right. I instinctively raised my right hand, as if I was supposed to be holding someone's hand. And just as I expected, there was a small corner store at the end of the block. The woman behind the counter looked surprised to see me, then her face broke into a familiar smile. Chloe, you're finally back. You have no idea how long that boy Ethan waited for you. She told me that after I was gone. She'd often see Ethan sitting by himself on the bench outside her store. Every time she'd ask him why I wasn't with him, he'd just smile and say, "Next time." But it was always just him. Sometimes, she said, his eyes would get red as he spoke. She said she'd never seen anyone so heartbroken, and she told me I should stop fighting with him and that we should just live our lives happily together. The shopkeeper kept talking, but I didn't know what to say. Flashes of him kept appearing in my mind. Me holding his hand, rambling on about our future together. Him, looking at me with a gaze so full of love. But I had Liam now, and Ethan had moved on with his life. Whatever we might have had before, it was over. I grabbed a few things and practically fled the store. I don't know why, but the thought of Ethan disappearing from my life for good made my chest ache with a sharp pain. I stood on the street corner, looking at this city that was both familiar and strange, and felt an indescribable urge to leave, to go back to Seacliff. I finished my cigarette just as the number 25 bus pulled up. The doors opened, and on impulse I got on. It was full of high school students in their blue and white uniforms. A hazy memory surfaced of a boy in that same uniform sitting by the window. I could almost see an 18-year-old Ethan waving me over, motioning for me to sit beside him so he could help me with my homework. The bus route had 13 stops, but I got off at Sunnyvale Crossing. Across the street was a condominium complex called Maplewood Heights. It felt inexplicably familiar. Just as I was about to walk toward it, Liam called. I hailed a cab to go back to the apartment. As I watched the condos disappear in the rearview mirror, I didn't feel like I was going home. I felt like I was getting farther away. I'd been back for 3 days. I'd met old friends and colleagues. Looking at their unfamiliar faces, so full of emotion, I just felt guilty. They'd clap me on the shoulder, their voices thick with tears. You're alive. That's all that matters. You're alive. They were obviously happy to see me, but there was always a hesitation in their eyes, as if they were waiting for me to ask a question I didn't know to ask, as if this wasn't how I was supposed to be. On the 3rd day, Leo found me. He said there was another property in my name. A specific place immediately came to mind, and when he led us to Maplewood Heights, it was exactly where I'd pictured. Building 3, 3rd floor. There were 2 apartments. Which one is it? Liam asked. I was already standing in front of 302 on the left. Leo, who was getting the key out, stared at me for a second. Yeah, that's the one. It was around 9 in the morning when the light is best. I opened the door, and the apartment was flooded with sunlight. It was a 2-bedroom place, and every room was bathed in light. Look at all this light, Liam said. Is that why you bought this place, Chloe? For the sun. I didn't know, but I felt like there was a better answer, just out of reach. The apartment was decorated mostly in orange. Orange curtains, an orange slipcover on the sofa, orange sheets on the bed. It gave the whole place a warm, sunny feeling. There were faint rectangles on the walls, the ghosts of picture frames. There was a large breakfast bar in the living room. Strangely, there wasn't a single bottle of liquor, just a dozen different kinds of loose-leaf tea. Liam laughed. So this is where you got your love of floral tea. Chloe, I have a gift for you. As he spoke, an orange tabby cat ran out from the bedroom. It was all orange except for a white patch on its chest. It ran straight to me, weaving around my legs, rubbing against me and meowing insistently. When I finally bent down, it leaped into my arms as if it had been waiting forever, and burrowed against my chest. Wow, he's friendly. Let me hold him. Liam reached for him, but the cat swatted his hand away. He's your cat, Chloe, Leo said. His name is Potato. You adopted him. I've just been looking after him for you. The little monster has been a handful. No wonder he was so friendly. I carried him into the bedroom and, without thinking, opened the nightstand and pulled out a can of cat food. The little guy acted like he was starving, trying to get at the can before I could even open it. Leo chuckled. He'll only eat for you. He wouldn't touch a thing for me. All right, I have to go. Call me if you need anything. After Leo left, I heard a yelp from behind me. Liam had been scratched. I immediately went to the cabinet under the TV, pulled out a first aid kit, and started cleaning the scratch with antiseptic. Chloe, how did you know that was there? I didn't know. It was just instinct. Liam looked over at Potato, who was happily eating his food. I guess he doesn't like me very much, he said with a laugh. We had planned to stay a few more days, but there was a problem at the inn, so Liam had to go back. He told me to stay to finish seeing everyone I needed to see. I had seen so many people, but I still felt like I was missing the most important one. That night, I came down with a high fever. I was delirious, trapped in a vivid dream. I dreamed of a little girl growing up in this town. She went to the local elementary school, then the district middle school, and got into the best high school. Every morning, she left for school early, and a boy's bicycle was always waiting for her. In her backpack, there were always 2 thermoses. She grew up and went to the police academy. Everyone was so proud. At a party, the boy, now a young man, held her and made a bold promise to everyone. The next time we all get together, it'll be for our wedding. The girl blushed, but he meant it as a solemn vow. The boy was so attentive, so good to her. He went to Starlight Point and got a red cord to keep her safe. She got one for him, too, wishing him even more safety than herself. Years passed. The boy started planning his proposal. He was a bit of a troublemaker, and his idea was crazy. He staged a fake car crash. The girl was terrified. Then she cried when she saw the real scene. He thought they were tears of joy. After all, he'd used her favorite flowers, her favorite color orange, and all their friends and family were there. He lifted her out of the car and whispered, "It's time." He knew she would say yes. That's why he dared to pull such an audacious stunt. After that, everything fell into place. Wedding photos, party favors, booking the venue. They had 4 separate menu tastings. They were only going to do this once, and they wanted it to be perfect. Everything was ready. The night of the rehearsal, Even though he knew it wasn't the real thing, he was so nervous he could barely walk straight. Just as they finished, she got the call. He told her to go, not to worry. She promised she'd be back in a week to marry him. But the mission went wrong. They were ambushed. She was badly injured, thrown into the ocean. Water filled her lungs, a crushing pressure building in her chest until it felt like it would explode. Then, blackness. I woke up drenched in a cold sweat, gasping for air. The crushing, suffocating feeling slowly faded. I saw a photo album lying open on the table. The girl in my dream and the girl in the photos slowly merged into one. In the middle of the night, I ran out of the apartment. I went back to Maplewood Heights. The moment I opened the door, I heard a voice. The sun feels so warm. Potato loves it too. Chloe, let's live here from now on, okay? You, me, Potato, and maybe a little girl one day. Our little family. We'll be so happy here, Chloe. Okay, let's live here. So that was the real reason. Don't drink soda, it's bad for your throat. I'll make you some tea. Rose or chamomile? Neither. I want chrysanthemum. Looking at the dozen varieties of tea on the counter, I suddenly realized. It wasn't me who loved floral tea. We had picked out every piece of furniture together. He'd suggested an evening wedding, afraid I'd be too sleepy and grumpy for a morning ceremony and refused to marry him. But in the end, I was the one who missed the wedding. The big brown sofa. He'd slept on it for 2 nights after saying the wrong thing, only allowed back in the bedroom after writing a 1,000-word apology, where he'd also drafted our wedding vows. Seeing the empty nails on the wall, I went into the bedroom and knelt by the bed. I reached underneath and my hand found a large box. All the photos were here, from our first photo as teenagers to our engagement pictures. There I was, in an orange dress, standing in the sunset, my smile as bright as the freesias in my arms. I'd said yes to his proposal without a moment's hesitation. I was so sure of myself back then, so sure I could give him a lifetime of love. Inside the box was the stuffed animal I'd won from the claw machine on the day he proposed. It was my lucky charm. It was just an ordinary toy, but because it was from that day I had treasured it. At the bottom I found 2 thermoses, one blue, one pink. Back then, I was so happy every time he took a sip of water. I treated his blue thermos like a sacred object. I loved him so much. These were Chloe's treasures. I was Chloe. How could I have forgotten who I was? How could I forget that I am Chloe? I broke down completely, tears streaming down my face. Ethan, I saw you. You were right there and I didn't recognize you. Why? I screamed, pounding my fists against the floor until they were raw, the physical pain a welcome distraction from the agony in my heart. When it was over, I lay on the floor like an empty balloon. Through my blurry eyes, I saw a vision of my Ethan getting out of bed, boasting that he was going to make fish stew for me and Potato. I slowly reached out, wanting to hold him one more time. You go rest, he said. There'll be soup ready when you wake up. I couldn't help but move closer. Potato, get down, he said, scooping up the cat. Don't bother your mom. Daddy will get you a can of food. Be good. Mommy's finally home. He turned to leave. Don't go. Don't leave me. I lunged forward and fell hard on the floor. The pain shocked me back to reality. This was Chloe's life. A life with Ethan. That was her life. I disappeared for 3 days. Captain Miller and Leo found me at the Maplewood Heights condo. I was lying on the floor, clutching our engagement photo, completely devoid of life. Where is he? Please, tell me where Ethan is. I'm begging you. Leo and Captain Miller exchanged a look. In their eyes, I saw pity. The face on the tombstone was exactly as I remembered him. I knelt before it, my trembling hand reaching out to touch the cold stone. Ethan, I'm back. I'm back. There was no one left to hold me so tight they wished they could absorb me into their own body. There was no one left waiting for me to come home. What have I done? What have I done? Chloe, Leo said softly. Ethan left a letter for you. I tore open the envelope. The handwriting was achingly familiar. My dearest Chloe, I hope this letter finds you well. You used to write me letters all the time when we were young, and I rarely wrote back. I never thought my first and only letter to you would also be my last. Please don't feel guilty. I understand. You survived something impossible, and that's all that matters. As for everything else, just follow your heart. For me, it's enough to know that my Chloe, the one I knew, loved me until the very end. I got to love you during the best years of my life. Every year I spent being loved by you was a gift. We may not have had our wedding, but in my heart, I married you 1,000 times over. We were always family. I was so lucky to have had that, From now on, live your life. Don't blame fate or anyone else. It just wasn't meant to be for us. And please don't dwell on me. Let me go in peace. My Chloe, I wish you peace. I wish you a good life. All my love, Ethan. After reading the letter, I felt hollowed out, empty. I collapsed to the ground, the letter clutched in my hand, soaked with my tears. I stumbled away from the cemetery in a daze. So this is what it felt like to wish you were dead. Liam's story. I had just finished fixing a leak in the kitchen when the police called. I thought it was Chloe, telling me she was on her way home, but they told me she'd been in an accident, that she was seriously injured and in a coma. I rushed back to Linwood. Captain Miller met me at the hospital. He told me on the way that Chloe had regained her memory. She remembered her real name, and she remembered her fiancé. But he had passed away, and she was devastated. My eyes stung with tears. A terrible fear gripped me. Does she want to die, too? Captain Miller shook his head. Ethan wouldn't want that, and she promised him she would live. This was an accident. She was hit by a car saving a little girl. I was frantic. But how is she? Is she going to be okay? Captain Miller just looked out the window, silent. I understood why when I spoke to the doctor. She has no will to live, the doctor said. You should talk to her. Maybe you can get through. I stood by her bedside, completely helpless. All I could do was say her name. Chloe. The inn is finally taking off. We just got married. Please wake up. But she didn't respond. She had made up her mind to leave, and there was nothing we could do to stop her. Chloe, I'm so sorry. I'm the one who ruined your life. I was so selfish. It's all my fault. I'm the one who should be dying, not you. Please, live. No matter what I said, she remained unresponsive. Seeing her lying there, I remembered the first time I met her. My father's fishing boat had pulled her from the water, battered and broken. My dad was a good man. He said it was fate. He borrowed a lot of money to pay for her medical bills, plunging our already struggling family deeper into debt. The loan sharks came to collect early. They smashed up our place and they were going to take Chloe. My dad and I fought them, but my dad, he didn't make it. With his last breath, he placed Chloe's hand in mine. Chloe was consumed by guilt. She didn't say anything. She didn't refuse. She was determined to help me pay off my family's debt. Took us 2 years, but we did it. Just when she was about to leave, I got sick. She knew my father's dying wish. She stayed and took care of me without a word of complaint. She even turned our little broken-down diner into a real inn. I knew she was still trying to find her family. We even filed a police report, but our little town was so remote, nothing ever came of it. I knew she wanted to leave to search for them, but she was tied down by me and by the inn. After she agreed to marry me, she stopped searching. She promised she would honor my father's wish and build a life with me. Only then did I feel secure. I was so afraid of losing her. Our life together got better and better. Then Captain Miller and his men showed up, and I was on edge again, especially when I saw Ethan. It was instinct. The moment Ethan laid eyes on her, I knew they had a history. But so what? I was the one standing by her side now. I was the one she was going to marry. And besides, after 5 years, I knew her. She was the most honorable person I'd ever met. She never broke a promise. If she said she would be with me, she would be with me. But maybe it was a guilty conscience, or a suspicion that Ethan was the one she'd been searching for all along, but I started deliberately getting close to him. I wanted him to know about our 5 years together. I wanted him to know how good she was to me, how much she loved me. I wanted him to know that she was happy with me, that she loved me now. And I truly believed, that no one in the world could love her more than I did. Even before the accident, I think I knew. He was the one she had been looking for, but she didn't recognize him, and he didn't say anything. I thought he was stepping aside for me. I felt guilty, but mostly I felt relieved. Relieved that I could hold on to my happiness. I never imagined he was sick. He wasn't doing it for me. He just didn't want to put her in an impossible position. He was thinking of her, right up until the very end. I looked at the woman in the hospital bed and finally confessed the truth that had been torturing me. You have every right to hate me. After we filed that police report, someone did contact us. A lead. I intercepted it. I told them it was a false alarm. I couldn't lose you, Chloe. I just wanted to be with you forever. I wiped a tear from my eye. I know now that I was wrong. It's my fault you and Ethan were kept apart. If it wasn't for me, you would have found each other years ago. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten sick. It's all my fault. So if you want to go, go. I won't try to keep you here anymore. Just as I finished speaking, her finger twitched. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought she was waking up. Then, the machines beside her bed started to scream. A flat line appeared on the heart monitor. Chloe! She was gone. Overcome with grief, I had her buried next to Ethan. They belonged together. It was because of me they lost 5 years. Because of me, they met again as strangers. I am a sinner. The only thing I can do to atone is to bring them back together. As for me, I will spend the rest of my life in Seacliff, praying for them both, day and night. Goodbye, my Chloe.